Good afternoon and welcome to episode 38, I think, of International Expansion Explained. My guest today is Siddhant Vijay Jaita, and I think that he is truly a man of many talents, almost something like a Renaissance man. And I think when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's not just about having one of those big ideas because it takes passion, resilience, creativity, but also a lot of grit to be really successful. And in the race to build businesses, founders often forget one of the most important ingredients for long term success is looking after their health. Now, that balance of ambition and well being really comes through today with Siddhant. And he was born and raised in Mumbai, and he studied business administration abroad in the UK before heading back to Calcutta to sharpen his entrepreneurial skills. And his love of flying started with paper planes when he was just a kid. But today, as director of Atherton and fourth generation in his family to run the business, he's really helped it grow into one of India's leading importers of aircraft parts, which means that in some ways he's turned his childhood passion into reality. But that wasn't enough. And on top of that, he's also launched startups in health snacks, home decor, and fashion, whilst carving out a voice as an influencer, podcast, and an author. Thank you for joining me today. It's really a pleasure to have you as my guest.
Thank you, Catherine. I think my introduction is, it's so nice to hear this kind of introduction which you've given. I feel really humbled. I don't know what to say, but thank you so much. And I'm so glad I'm a part of your episode. And uh, it's lovely to be here.
Yeah, I'm always grateful for people who are willing to give up some of their time to share their insights with me and to have an interesting conversation. First up, I am going to ask if somebody who is watching on LinkedIn maybe could drop us a comment in the chat so that we can be sure that actually we are truly live. My phone says that we are truly live, but I always do like to have that reassurance that somebody is listening to us. And I know it sometimes takes a minute or two for it to come through, but that would be great if somebody could just drop a hi in there. Maybe in the meantime, Sidan, tell us a little bit about how you. I mean, normally I ask guests how you got into international business, but that seems a little bit strange. Give us a little potted history of how you reached the point in your life that you're at so far.
So, just to make it more brief, Catherine, so I come from a fourth generation legacy family. My family was always into imports of aircraft and aircraft spares. And, it was the talk always at home, in terms of sourcing products, uh, making business connections abroad, and, so on and so forth. So, that was a time, it was started by my grandfather and then later run by my uncle, my father, and slowly eventually came down to me. But yeah, so I was always interested in this business, as a child also, as you mentioned, I used to always fly paper planes. I was very intrigued, with the concept of flying, to see, how planes fly, just understand a little bit on the philosophy of this whole process, so it's always been in my blood, I would say, and but at the same time, as they say, heritage family business is there in terms to keep you grounded, but you want to write your own story, and I believe in writing my own story. So I always believed in also pursuing my passion in terms of other projects which I'm a part of, to bring forth. And today I'm proud to say that I have started 4 individual startup companies on my own, and they are all passion based companies. So yes.
And that's one of the things that I find such an interesting mix because, I mean, the aircraft business, I'm sure that there have been shifts and changes in the aircraft business over the generations, but
Right.
they often driven by technology. Whereas and being part of a family business over several generations, that means you grow up with certain expectations,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Um, what would you say that have been some of those big shifts that you've seen in the aircraft sector before we move on to talk about your startups and so on? I'm just interested because I started out in automotive, and I always feel that that's quite a traditional kind of business,
Right.
even if technology changes and moves on.
Right. I would, there's a big shift actually. Earlier in the earlier generations, I would say, it was more transactional, but I think in today's time is more in terms of building trust and partnerships with our international suppliers and vendors. And, in terms of technology also, today I can be anywhere around the world. And if I want to order anything, it's just from my phone. I can just order any part and, always be connected. I think in terms of the connection we have in today's time due to technology has really helped. And also, I see also a lot of paperwork has been, earlier generations used to lose a lot of paperwork. Everything has become digital now. So, everything, there is a progress in everything you do. And I'm sure in times to come, it'll get more and more smoother and more easier for the other generations also to follow. But I run my entire business on my own mobile phone. So I think that would just say what uh, we could not do earlier, and that time when we used to have issues also with our vendors, we used to make those expensive trunk calls overseas, and the bills used to be enormous,
Yeah,
yeah. So in today's time, due to the IT technology, we have so many plans on our mobile phones itself. Everything has become so easier in terms of communication, I would say. So that's a big positive. And even like today, even the aircrafts, normally if they are on ground, because any technical difficulty, any corporate or a government requires a certain part by which their flight is grounded, they cannot fly. We can order it the same day. We give 24-hour service as well. So to our customers today, which my earlier generations were not doing. So we are like 24/7 round the clock in terms of helping our customers. So yeah, that is.
that's that's really interesting. I mean, it's been 20, yeah, 25 years since I worked
Yeah,
in automotive, and at that time it was still the old days of doing business. You still didn't really have a mobile phone. You still had to book calls if you were traveling, especially traveling in places like Africa. You maybe had to book a call a couple of days in advance,
yeah,
and sometimes stuff took months to arrive because that's the way supply chains were. I
yeah.
mean, it's really changed a lot. But would you say that growing up with that kind, and also moving into your role in that kind of heritage legacy import business, that has been a strong founding about the way that you think about global supply chains and cross-border partnerships that you also are using now within your startups?
So you know what it was a very difficult time for me, Catherine. Basically, after Bombay, I went abroad, but then there was a big separation in my family. So my father and my uncle separated, and the majority of the chunk of business was in Calcutta, which is a different city in India,
Mhm.
and the branch office was in Bombay. So because he had the major chunk of the business, there's not much we could do, because used to take the shots. So when the separation happened and he sold the company to us, the company was sold at a very big liability. We had a lot of loans with banks, notices coming from banks every day and now and then. So it was a very difficult time that time. And that is the time I just finished my education and I was called back to Calcutta because my father used to have some health issues. My mother was a housewife, so there was no one to take care of the business. And my uncle had an intention that, these people will not be able to run the business, and in a couple of years they'll shut down or sell the company back to me. So that just drove a challenge inside me, that I want to prove him wrong. I'm a
Mhm.
person that never gives up in life, and I always stay motivated in terms of whatever I do. So that started my journey in terms of belief. I would say, that I had self belief. And I still remember the day, the first day when I went to the office in Calcutta. I did not know a single person because this was a new city for me. And people just were staring at me, that this kid who's just come down from abroad, finished his education, has no knowledge about business.
What does he
Is he,
know?
yeah, is he going to be bossing us around just because he's the owner's son? So, that kind of commands and stares I used to get, and I took it as a challenge. I said, every day I used to go to work 1 hour earlier than my employees used to reach, just sit, go through the books, go through journals, whatever they had, just to understand from the ground level what has been happening in the company. And that was a good motivation for me itself to take it up as a challenge. And slowly by slowly, from a liability company, I'm proud to say today that we're a profitable company. And it has been a hard work, but I'm happy the way it turned out in the end. And yeah.
And it's such an interesting, I find it such an interesting balancing act, that how do you get from the stage of you're working really hard as the son of the family, let's
Yeah.
say, to build something which has that level of heritage and which has all of those family expectations behind you, and then to move forward into working also and having the energy to work also on those passion projects of your own. Because I know that you've spoken very openly about reversing type 2 diabetes. Maybe
Yeah.
you can just give us a little bit of that journey. How did that story arc, if you like, that next chapter come about?
Yeah, so basically, when I used to finish my office, basically we work with US time difference, because we are in India and US time difference has a big gap. So I normally in the office, I finish work by about 2 p.m. And then from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., I work on my startups. So I'm a kind of person who you would say I'm like a workaholic because I like doing different things. I cannot just be idle. It's like I'm like water, it needs to keep flowing. So, that's the time I thought to myself that, fine, family business is there. This is something I was passionate about, I am passionate about, and I want to continue this as a legacy business. But what about my own dreams and my own aspirations? What about like the things I wanted to do as a child? Like I was always fashion oriented, even I remember I used to sleep when I was young. I used to sleep. I used to fight with my mom that I need to wear a matching night suit to go to bed. Otherwise, I'm not going to go to bed. So, that started at a very young age. It came out very naturally. And that enabled me to start my own fashion brand. And I saw that there's a big gap in the market, especially where I'm living in Calcutta, that luxury streetwear is a brand which is not there, or, it's not been popularized in this city. So I wanted to create a brand where, out of my own personalization, hired a design studio, artists who would, make products according to my specifications and make those limited pieces and, sell it online on Instagram or my website. So that was something I started in terms of my fashion. My second startup was this brand called Crunch and Munch, which basically is my most passionate brand because that is the brand which I started after reversing my type 2 diabetes. And because snacking being such a big industry, we wanted to do a brand which is more health centric and health focused, in terms of eating clean. People love gluten free options, people love clean ingredients. So we wanted to try and incorporate all that into a snack, and also not compromising too much on the taste of the product, so people don't think, because normally people term healthy as boring. So I
Yep.
didn't want that label to be there. So I always, encourage, and I always try to portray the brand that it has good taste element to it. Everything is not for your palate, but it's got those ingredients which you will like it and you will enjoy having. So that was my second startup. My third startup, I'm also a big fan, and I've always been more creative in terms of home decor products. So that made me start importing home decor products from different countries. And I started doing B2B shows and B2C shows, including my own craftsman team out here, because any product we used to import, we used to always try to redesign it in my own aesthetics and then supply it and or do shows after that. So it's more personalized. And of course, my last starter was called Buna Comida. It was more like, I was always a foodie. I used to love cooking back in the uni and things like that. So one day I just found my recipe book, which I used to try and do recipes back then. And it encouraged me in terms of starting a Lebanese and a Mexican cuisine, which is again scarce in the city I live in. So that's again a curated menu for clients who can order through our cloud kitchen and supplying to my clients that way. So yeah, this is just a brief about the startups.
Yeah, and I find it really interesting because those are quite a range of products. So, what was it? Um, I mean, we spoke a little bit before we started out today about this lack of clean snacks that promoted that, let's say, sparked the idea for Crunch and Munch. What, maybe you can just give us a timeline. What kind of time were you starting that? I mean, you mentioned also that you were a bit of a night fridge raider, or a, I don't know, that you would go out and get snacks late at night. I know quite a few people in Asia who do the same, because you can. In Europe you can't, right? You have to have them at home because
Right.
there's nothing open.
So I'll tell you, this journey was very interesting, because I started like whenever I used to when I shifted to Calcutta, obviously a new city, I got into a bit of depression. I'm very open to talk about it because obviously when you have no friends, you have no one, you've come to a whole new city, you don't know a single person, your father's not keeping well, you don't have good mentors to guide you at that age when you're just moving out and getting into a business. That was a time, I just gave up, or I would say I just let go of myself, and I started binging on anything and everything what I used to get to eat. I'd never cared about my own health at that point of time, till I realized that, I got married and then I had children. I realized that, after all, you need to be a role model for your children, because if you suffer, your family suffers with you. And I didn't want that thing to happen to my daughters. I wanted to be a role model for them. So it just became a conscious effort from my side to finally go to my doctor, understand my parameters, where I'm going wrong. And obviously, I had put on 106 kgs, and it in a span of around, I would say, about 8 months, I lost about 30 kgs. And it was all about self motivation. I remember that whole period I became lactose free as well. I stopped having any milk products. I put up a step tracker on my wrist and used to count steps when I'm walking. I became more mobile basically. And what I did also was very interesting was, I didn't kill my cravings. A lot of people, what they do is they kill their cravings. If you're craving something to eat, you just want to go and buy it and eat it. But what I did smartly was, I substituted those cravings. Like for example, I'm craving a pizza. What I used to do is I used to make the homemade tomato puree, with fresh tomatoes, and I used to, instead of cheese, I used to put tofu. So I used to intake my protein intake became pretty high, what I which I substituted with milk products. So it was a overall journey and a self-conscious journey, I would say, that helped me build this brand. And also at the same time, I wanted to make this brand a global brand. So from the first day itself, even our packaging, if you see, it's got that very English kind of design. It's got the very so people know that when they look, because I believe that half your battle is won when a person sees before eating the product, you have to see the product. And when they see the packaging, that speaks half the volume of your brand. So, that is something which also I really, I remember we spent days with my entire marketing and digital team designing on the logo, designing on the kind of format we wanted to, the portion size, the ingredients being used, and things and so forth. So yeah, this was a whole conscious effort to eventually make this brand global.
And do you feel like your background in imports gave you this particular advantage when you were setting up like a healthy snack business with a kind of international outlook? I mean, would I be right in saying that you set up the business and you had this kind of vision
Right.
that one day you'll be an interesting, one day you'll be an international brand,
Right.
um, and take the products further than just, I'm saying just India. I mean,
Yeah,
India.
yeah.
But
It's no, what you're saying is completely true because eventually that was my vision. I want to make it a global brand, but obviously, I had to make it a global brand. I had to start with baby steps, get established in my own country first, and then slowly, slowly building the kind of trust which would also, help me get motivated that I know that this brand is working. Because obviously, when you start a brand, there are a lot of teething problems. There are a lot of issues in terms of is it going to work, not going to work. You're making that kind of investment on your product, so you obviously want to play it safe in the beginning. But even when I was playing safe, I always made sure that the quality of the ingredients used, the packaging, the designing, the authenticity of the product, everything is in check as per the global standards. And eventually it would be more easier when I know that I am established in this country. It would be more easier in terms of then scaling it globally. And I know that millions of people are now, especially in today's general, are open to taste. They love tasting new stuff. It's not like what it used to be earlier in our grandparents' time or earlier generation, which they were a little rigid in terms of what they used to consume. I would say, I'm sorry to say that, but I see in terms of today, people are more open in terms of trying things, in terms of even trying or risking new businesses ideas, which convert into big businesses. So people are more risk takers, I think, in today's time, than what we I think the earlier generations were. I think the earlier generations love to play it more safe.
yeah, and I think that people now these days are more people are maybe a little bit more cosmopolitan in their taste because a lot more people have maybe traveled a little bit more, and so they're open for
Right.
different flavors. They're open for different, um, let's say, experiences, aren't they, when it comes to trying new foods?
No, and you won't believe it. I would love to add this, but even globally, like now, Indian food is like much loved by all people in terms of because Indian food is available in every part of the world in today's time, and people, whenever I meet my international customers, vendors, they keep telling me the first thing: we love food from India. Because they have seen that kind of food and they are enjoying it. Before, people used to say that Indian food is really spicy. It's not
Yeah.
easy for every palate. But today there are so many variations made in their own recipes that it makes it more globally acceptable to people, I would say, in today's time. So that is why I would say this cuisine is also getting popular in parts of every kind of in the entire world, in fact, right now.
Hmm. And but I mean, still though, aviation and FMCG are like two completely uh, different worlds. So, what were like the biggest challenges that you faced when you were setting up and you were kind of moving that mindset from aircraft parts to food products? I mean, I know that quality, I think, is something that I've heard also from our brief conversation that quality that is like a given that has to
Yeah.
be, and standards, that those are things that I feel that it doesn't matter what industry you're in, quality standards are something that, you know, they're always appreciated. But which were the main challenges, and maybe what were the things that surprised you?
Aviation business is a heritage business. Obviously, that is my main bread and butter, I would say. But, in terms of my startup businesses, I would say it's not too much difference. It's only the difference in terms of speed and turning. Basically, the products which I deal in have a shelf life.
Yeah.
Obviously, food products have a shelf life which is much lesser. And that's why that was a big challenge in terms of how to downgrade your shelf life in terms and try and give fresh products to the end consumers without them feeling that when they open the packet they feel it's stale. So in terms of even our logistics, in terms of the price points also, obviously FMCG products are more speedy. It's more off-take items in terms of products the way we sell in our stores. So I think overall, between aviation and obviously, I always believed in one thing: you should always have a backup business. Never believe you have only one business, because if one business does not work, then you should always have a something to rely back and do something different which you can probably back up on. So that is also something which I thought that why not do my passion businesses which will also not only help me but also help the world in terms of healthy eating and Yeah, that where it started. And also I remember, Catherine, I would tell you a little bit of a little story. When I started this journey of Crunch and Munch, I personally used to go to every single store, retail store, and show my product to them. And before they seeing the product, they used to just look at me and say, "No, no, we don't want. Please look at the door and you can go." I faced rejections. I cannot tell you how many rejections I faced, and I kept going. I remember almost a month I used to keep going to that same outlet who said no to me, same outlet. I used to keep telling them, I said, I'm not coming here to make a sale. I'm just coming here to make you try my product. Just try my product. If you like it, keep it. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for you to, for anything. Just try. They were not willing to try it as well. It was like that. But because of my persistence and that never give up attitude, which I always believe in, I eventually they got irritated. I would say the word irritated with me, and then they said, okay, fine, give your product, let us try it. And then they tried it, and they said, okay, fine, we will try your product for a month. If it does not move out from the shelf, you can take back your goods. And yeah, that's that with it. So I remember that whole phase. And eventually that same store today, I still remember when the store who rejected me, who was not willing to taste my product, that store is one of my highest selling stores in India today. So you can just understand the whole dynamics of because eventually the retailers are the one who make the consumers try your product.
Yeah.
And if the consumers are not getting a chance to try the product, the retailers on their own just they say no to you. They don't give you that opportunity to even make you reach the end consumer. So yeah, so that was also another task and a whole journey altogether.
Yeah, I think that getting listings is, on
Yeah,
the one hand, it's a massive challenge because you need to get on the shelf so that you can sell
yeah,
product, even if you're also selling product maybe via an own website directly
yeah.
to consumers. But on the other hand, it's still only the first step. You still have to, once you've got on the shelf, you still have to stay on the shelf.
Yes.
And I think that a lot of founders underestimate how difficult it is to get that footprint in retail and to stay on the shelf. You still have to do all of the activities to make sure that your product is
Yeah.
turning from the shelf, that consumers know that you exist and that they want to try the product. And that's partly down to you. It's not only down to retailers, right?
Right. And in fact, because as you said, so for that we have kept in every store we have a promoter who makes the customer just try the products. They keep just making the customer try the products. They tell them you don't have to buy it, we just want you to taste. So that has been the ongoing journey. And in today's time, because there's so much competition, you have to be a little bit ahead of your competitors and always try to innovate your own product line, I would say. Tweaking it a bit, or trying to get different kind of ranges where it is not commonly there in the market. So then you stand out as a brand. So I kept trying these different techniques. And I'm very proud to say that in today's time, I think my brand has got less or probably no competition in terms of the kind of products we sell
That's cool.
in India.
And what are the most popular flavors, or which are your top selling products?
So we have this product called our quinoas are really good. We have quinoas, which is made of different kinds of seeds. There's flax seeds, there's all kinds of seeds together mixed in one. And we've made some variations to it. So we have a wasabi flavor and a chili lime flavor. So it's very unique. It's something very English as well. Quinoas is not like too Indian to the Indian palate, but we wanted to. That's why I said, we try to make products eventually at aiming at the global level and to supply to the global chain. And then obviously we have incorporated a lot of items in terms of our snacking range, which is the chips and the crackers, which we have, which is got a, so we have this one range called the veggie chips. It's got a mix of all kinds of vegetables in one, so some variations we keep trying to do here on our own. So yeah.
Ah, yeah, the best kind of clients to work with, snack customers.
Yes.
Always the same. And so I think that from what I've gathered is that Crunch and Munch has grown really quite quickly
Yeah,
across tier one and probably tier two Indian cities. What's
yeah,
been your strategy so far has been to go step by step, I think,
yeah.
right? From one city to the next.
Yeah, so that's what we are planning. Right now we are in all the metropolitan cities of the country, and also the tier two cities, as you mentioned. We've started there. We've also started online presence. So we are on Amazon. We are on our own website as well. But eventually, now slowly, we want to expand, and we want to start with the South Asian and the Middle East countries. To start off, and then probably look at UK and US as the next option after that, because there are a lot of people, because I have clients in India who stay abroad, and they always take my snacks with them, and they give me pre-orders that we want to keep your snacks and take it with us. My daughter is studying there, my son is studying in a different country, so they want to take it for their children. So they take numerous packets from us in India from here, but eventually I want to make it more easier for them, so it's available out there, and they don't have to go through the whole harassment of carrying the products through the flights and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah. And so, like you mentioned, Southeast Asia and the Middle East, I guess, would be
Yeah.
your, let's say,
Immediate, yeah,
would probably be the first target
first
market.
target markets, yeah, because they are more culturally, I think, familiar with us, in terms of the kind of products we deal in, and I feel that it's a closer proximity, as well, in terms of reaching people, and even we can try some good local partners out there. We are looking for some good local partners who can help us in terms of reaching to the right kind of stores, in terms of supply, in terms of our supply chain. So we are trying to, in that process, figuring out ourselves.
Yeah, for sure, it makes sense um to experiment a little bit closer to home with neighboring countries before you start to go to the opposite side of the world and find that your supply chains
Yeah.
maybe have some weakness, or that there's something that some experience that you're missing. I mean, that's not so not so easy. But we have also a question. um, Maria is curious to know about how you're reaching your target audiences, and if you have a multilingual strategy in place across India.
Yeah, so basically, when we started this brand, we started as a very premium brand. We are not targeting the masses. We are only targeting the classes right now, in terms of, because our price points are also a little bit on a premium side, which is not a regular Indian price point. So even our target audience is more of the HNI clients, in
Mhm,
terms of the kind of supplies we're doing right now, because they are understanding the kind of quality we're using in our products. Because if I reduce my pricing, I would be compromising on the quality, which I would not want to compromise on. So it's something I would say in simple words, that whatever I would like to consume on my own, I would like to let my customers have the same. So that is something, which I am really focusing on, and that probably helps me in terms of even being differentiated with my competition. Because for me, was a passion business. It was not all about the money, I would say, involved,
mhm,
but it is more about the right kind of product going to my right customer, and they should have a smile and feel happy about it and give me a call. In fact, you won't believe it, I am supplying my products to gynecologist clinics. They call me up, pregnant mothers are having my products, and because we have different ranges for different people, so we have a bland range which is not spicy, we have a different kind of range, so we have a kids range. So we have a different kind of a I would say a buffet of snacks, which helps distinguish, to in terms of different kind of clientele we can supply. And obviously earlier we had started only with a baked range, but because we saw that the baked range scalability was little limited, so we started also a range which is a little bit of air fried, which is just less than probably 1% of the oil which we mix in terms of our ingredients. And that also, the oil we use, like one of the most expensive oil we get in India is the avocado oil, which we use in
mhm.
terms of making the product. So yeah, so it's basically that. So we try to, give a balance and a mix to everything.
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, we spoke a little bit about the diaspora communities and that some of your initial international markets will probably be also linked to where are the concentrations of Indian communities, be that in the Emirates or be that maybe in Malaysia and those kind of, or Singapore also as markets. And I guess that you're also thinking of using those networks as a kind of launch pad for your exports. Which kind of adaptations do you think will be necessary to appeal to mainstream consumers in markets like Europe, the UK, or maybe Australia?
I believe that, first of all, everyone, as I said earlier, everyone's open to new tastes. People are open to new tastes and trying new things, but obviously to meet the global standards, we have also, practice in terms of our portion sizes, the quality we're using, the kind of ingredients we're using, to just make sure that we are easily acceptable in terms of those markets as well. And obviously, we need to have the right kind of local partners out there who would guide us and help us in terms of the other variations which we probably need to do to explore ourselves outside our country.
And maybe if we think about things going in the other direction, if UK or European businesses are looking to either source or export to India, what kind of things do you think that they should be considering?
Number one, I think they need to consider is to have a very strong local partner, which is very important. The local partner in terms of the partnership you do with your brand, and it needs to be really strong. Second, you need to have patience, because I feel that patience is the key. People, as in today's time, really wants quick results. They think that just sending a product across, if it's not working, you have to give that time, for the product to breathe.
Yeah,
You have to give that kind of time for the product to breathe, and then make a probably a decision if you want to stay in that market or not. So that's very important. And in today's time, India has got many cities. It's just not one. So in case when, for example, anyone wants to export to India, suppose a city A does not work for them, not necessarily, because a city A's variation would be very different from a city B's variation. So
yeah,
it can be that the city's B variation work and they've not reached the B variation and they've just stuck to the A variation. So it totally depends on these three things. I feel that is very important for them to consider to exporting to India. And yeah, so that's what I would say. Yeah.
cool. You're also, because I'm sure you don't have enough things to do, and because you said you don't like to be idle, you're also an author, you're a podcaster, and since this year, also a TEDx speaker, I've seen. So, how are you anticipating that you will use your personal story to build credibility for your businesses internationally?
Eventually now the times have changed, Catherine. I would say that people now trust the founder than the brand itself. They
Yeah,
want to know about the founder's story, the authenticity of the founder. That is very important in terms of today's time. I think that no matter where you are, like in terms of, even if I give you an example of probably Elon Musk with Tesla, people talk in India more of Elon Musk, than the brand Tesla. So, it's all about the founder's journey. And if the founder's journey is very authentic, people relate to it. Um, I think that's the main, I think, important thing which would be taken forward.
yeah. And so, what I would take away from that is that you also see that your own profile as an entrepreneur, but also as a storyteller,
Yeah.
um, is something that will certainly become baked into the export package when you start to present your brands abroad, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and me also as a personality, Catherine, I would say I'm like an open book. I'm very transparent in terms of my dealings, or as a person. I'm very open about things, talking about things, and it's very important to do that. You need to be transparent with your customers. You cannot put your customers on dark, because tomorrow they find out, they will just not trust you. And trust is something which is built over years. It's not built in a day. So in terms of, even I started my podcasting, just giving an example, started my own channel called the SDJ Podcast. This also was something I wanted to do for the youth of our country. This was just a medium, because I see that after college, children, are confused what careers they should choose.
Yeah.
So I do podcasts from different experts from various trades all across their own platforms and trades they come from. And it just gives them a little bit of a boost to just get an expert advice. So it just helps them in terms of clarity of thinking, whatever career they want to choose. And this is just out of my own passion. I'm not monetizing. I don't charge people for podcasting, nor am I getting paid to do podcasting. So it's something I wanted to do for the community, because we have responsibility towards our society as well. And I believe that as human beings, it's important also to get guidance, which I did not get, because I didn't have very good mentors. But I wanted to do this for the community and the next generation, where they would get guidance in terms of getting expert advisors. And even if one person, could benefit from that expert advice, that would actually be satisfying my soul. Nothing better than that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I think it's such a valuable mission, because it's also the question that so many young people, they leave university or they finish their schooling, their high school, and they simply don't know which jobs exist out there.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean, they have some idea. Of course, everybody knows like doctor, lawyer, those kind of things, or somebody who's building or somebody who's cooking. Those kind of jobs everybody knows, but there's so much more to it, isn't there?
Yeah, but I would like to interrupt out there. Earlier, especially in India, I would say, earlier we had to listen to our parents. Whatever career they used to choose for your children, you had to abide by it and do it. But in today's generation, I see that people are more risk takers. Parents have become more open. They've become more friendly in terms of with their children. They're willing to sit down and talk to them, give them wings to fly. So that is something which has really evolved, I would say, in terms of our own country, especially India. And yeah, so it's nice that if someone, and I do a lot of talks. I do a lot of motivational talks in schools and colleges in India as well. And even in my TEDx talk which I had in India, I told them that, no matter how stupid your idea is, it doesn't matter if people think it's stupid, but you think you have a conviction, and you think, this idea is going to really work. Try it. Do a, but whatever you try it, do a full survey. Don't waste money. You need to have a good ground knowledge about whatever you're getting into, and then you get into it. If it works, it's very well and good. If it does not, it's always a learning experience. Knowledge is something which never goes. You always keep learning. So, and I believe one thing, Catherine, which I've always believed in my life, success cannot come without failure. So that is very important, I feel, in terms of my own life lessons which I've learned. So um, yeah, so this is why, a little bit, why I wanted to do this.
Yeah. And seeing as we are a little bit reflective now, as we come more or less to the end, knowing what you do today, what advice would you give to the younger version of yourself, just starting out on your work journey?
My own younger version, I would just say that, at that time probably I did not get that many opportunities in
Hmm.
my life, which I'm probably getting now in terms of different kind of things which I'm trying to do. I would probably tell my younger self that, be more patient. Patience is the key. Everything in your life has a right time, and there's a right time for everything you do in life. So you need to be patient. Your time will come. Never get disheartened, never get upset, because at that time, obviously, when you are young, you're more, as I said, your thoughts are running everywhere. But in today, my younger self, I would say that you need to be more balanced. I would like, my younger self to be much more balanced than what I was back then.
Hmm. Would you have been able to listen to that advice aged, I don't know, 22,
Like
23?
I try to, and in fact, I try to tell my daughters also to listen to that advice. But yeah, but I always believe patience is the key, and everything has a right time, and your time will come.
Very cool. Siddhant, thank you. It has been a real pleasure talking to you today. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, your story. It's been very, very interesting. And I hope that for everybody who's been listening, that it's also been as interesting as I found it to talk to you.
I also want to add one more thing before we sign off. Yeah, I also, I think it's very important also whatever you do, you should be journaling it and writing it. And that's what inspired me in terms of writing my own books. I was never a writer, and it inspired me to get into writing. And today I've written three books, especially about my own transition. My first book was on terms of my a little bit of the depression journey which I faced from my shift from Bombay to Calcutta and how I overcame it. My second book was on my transformation and reversing my type 2 diabetes. And my third book, which is the recent latest one, which I just released, is called Belief, which is all about positivity and in terms of taking positive measures whatever you do in life and just believing in yourself. Because I see a lot of people at a point when they don't get things the way they wanted, they lose belief and they go to other means which might harm them. So I always try to, through my book, I try to tell them that it's not the end of the world. There will be a next day. You will see sunshine tomorrow as well. So, you need to be patient with whatever you do and never give up. So, yeah, this is what I would like to tell, especially all the viewers also watching us today.
Brilliant. And where can they find the book?
So, this book is available on Amazon. It's my one book is it's called my second book, The Live Life Healthy Way, which is on my transformation, is on Amazon Kindle, and which is a digital copy. And the latest big book which I've released, The Belief, is on Amazon.in.
Okay, thank you. So anybody who is interested to read more about Siddhant's story can go and buy the book. Please go and buy the book. Thank you for joining me today. Everybody who's been listening, thank you also for taking the time to tune in and to listen to us. It's always a pleasure. And thank you for the questions and the comments in the chat.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for listening to us. I just hope that everyone would be inspired, and I hope that you get one life. I just hope that you live it to the fullest and in the right way, in the right manner. And never be upset with any people have stresses in their lives. Everyone goes through their own personal problems, but everything has a solution, and just be patient. That's all